Hey guys, welcome back to Legendary Tabletop. I'm Greg, your handsome host. And today we continue our Lustria board building for the game of Mordheim. Now, we've built several really great pieces. Our table is looking really schmack. We've got small pyramids, medium pyramids, large pyramids, jungle towers, jungle terrain, jungle hills. What else could we do? Now, one of my favorite parts of Warhammer lore, the Lizardmen have these things called spawning pools, where they actually grow their warriors and they grow their young, and this is how they reproduce in the lore. So in order to make our table as immersive and lore-friendly as possible, today on Legendary Tabletop, we're going to craft the Spawning Pools of Lustria.
Alright, now into voiceover mode. If you haven't already, please hit the like, hit the subscribe. And the last few weeks we have been working on this Mordheim in Lustria board. So if you haven't already, check out the previous videos. And one of the things that we built was this jungle tower. Now the jungle tower was inspired by some of the architecture seen in the Warhammer video games, the Total War video games, and they have some very cool expansion on some of the buildings. The battle maps are very neat in that game. Now, if you don't have that game, you can kind of check out. There's a ton of content online with plays, that sort of thing. And but the thing about that building was incorporating the lizard motif, the lizards, the dinosaurs themselves, into the building. And so that is the idea for this spawning pool. And in the lore, the Lizardmen grow their warriors and they grow their population through spawning pools, and they are sacred locations, and there are special sections in the town crier rules for Mordheim for these locations. And what I'm doing basically here is I'm going back to that 6x6 grid, so the building's going to have this square base, and I'm going to play on that geometric type architecture by making a sort of pedestal here where the stone rises up in a square type pattern. And if you don't know, I'm using XPS foam, which is the insulation construction foam used here in the States where I'm located. And the idea is that there is the pool in the center that will build walls and statues and things to decorate. Now the idea is like that jungle tower, I'm going to make the building have sort of anthropomorphic element to it. Is that the right word? Comment below if my grammar is correct. And so I'm going to build basically like a snake into the building structure. Now the Lizardmen, they do have a snake god, and the snake god is Sotek. And there's all sorts of very cool lore, and they expand upon this in the Warhammer Total War games. And just a very neat, interesting aspect of the lore. And I'm using just hot glue initially for this. And since I'm going to be adding little pieces to cover, and I'm using the hot glue and some of the foam to hide some of the cracks and crevices and mistakes, rather. So just some simple tools: hot glue, XPS foam, and just a simple razor blade here to cut with. Now these razor blades are really inexpensive, and a dull razor blade can be an unsafe situation. So I do recommend to switch out your blades each project. And a lot of these are available at the hardware store. I actually purchased mine at the dollar store, and they have every once in a while. They sell out very quickly, but every once in a while they do have the replacement blades. So when they have those, I try to stock up. And now we're repeating some of the design elements in some of the other buildings in our Lustria board. If you haven't seen those, check out the other videos after this one. And I have some of these flimsy structures here. This is going to be the body of the snake, the anthropomorphic snake, and I'm using both hot glue and toothpicks, which I have here in my little tool kit thingy on my working desk here, and so I can access those really quickly, because toothpicks are the mana of the crafting community. And yes, when I die and go to heaven, I will wake up in a vault full of toothpicks and XPS foam, and yeah, nothing else for me that I desire. And I have on the top right here the snake head. On the bottom left I have the like rattle, I guess, and I have this cool little like foam light that I'm going to use on the bottom to make this piece glow. And underneath I carved just a little slot so that I could put this light underneath, and it's a nice little light. It's basically the same size as a smartphone. And then I have this, what they call sea glass, which is a crafting supply, also from the dollar store, and it comes in these nice green, blue, and white colors. Now normally I believe this is used Karens and grandmas and stuff put this in vases in their house to ward away evil spirits, that sort of thing. And I'm just going to hot glue these into that crevice that I carved below so that I can use the light to diffuse some of that glow. Now I do like to keep both the hot glue, or the high temperature and a low temperature hot glue gun nearby, since both that I have don't go through the settings. Now there are some that do offer that, but I'm blessed here to have a few hot glue guns. And but if you are new to the crafting, I would recommend to get the low temperature first, especially if you are going to be working with foam, because of the high temperature you have to kind of juggle it, turning it on and off, because it will, when it gets the hottest that it can get, it will melt the foam. But also you can use that if you want at some point. So turning off the lights here in the workspace, my little studio, and just checking out to see if this works and diffuses, and yeah, it's looking pretty nice. And that sea glass really works well as a light diffuser. And coming along here. And now, much like the other buildings in our board, and much like the pyramids, etc., we're going to put these little candle pieces. And again, these are just toothpicks combined with hot glue. And I tease the hot glue up and down, and I make little like drippies. That sounds gross. And then I do kind of a couple layers on this, like, so you just put a little bit, let it dry for a few minutes, move on to the next one, and then come back and put a second layer, and it's an easy way to recreate candle wax, and also to communicate I guess the sacredness of this location, because it would be very sacred to the lizard dudes. And then I constructed this little tongue piece, and there are toothpicks all on the inside of this, so that when the Cheeto fingers get grabbing at this, when there are games, that it doesn't get destroyed. And just a little hot glue, and that will be very sturdy. Yes, and this piece is coming along, and I think this will be one of the final terrain pieces for our our board. We definitely have a 4x4 type board, more than enough stuff for some games. And after that, there's going to be some different videos. We're going to do some original Mordheim videos, and also I will be going to Adepticon this year, and would love to see any of you there, any subscribers that are in the Midwest that'll be there. That'll be nice. We're going to be going to a couple Mordheim tournaments actually at Adepticon this year, so I'll be putting together some war bands and recording that, and that'll be a video series here, so that'll be something cool, something different here on the channel. And now I'm using the hot wire tool and carving some bricks into our spawning pool here, and the textures coming along, just being very gentle because there is a lot of little pieces sticking out on this. Same thing, I'm being gentle here with the aluminum foil and just putting some of that stone texture into the XPS foam, and I'm using my other hand to brace so that I don't break off and destroy the work that I have already done on this piece. And now moving on to the finer detail with the ballpoint pen. Now, we are doing some other Mordheim videos in the future, but I'm curious too, if you're still watching and you've enjoyed this, if you've checked out that campaign section of Mordheim, and if not, and if you're with us right now, check that out. There are different campaign settings for Mordheim. Which one should we build next? There are some cool locations. There's like a dungeon Mordheim, there's Athel Loren Mordheim, there is a dwarven city Mordheim. So lots of cool different stuff that is available for the game, and we're having fun with this, so maybe that is one of the big series that we will do next, along with some battle reports, that sort of thing, and the Adepticon follow-up videos. And here we are moving along to just rocks and sand. The detail with the ballpoint pen has finished, and the ballpoint pen is a nice way to get detail that is not or that is more fine than the hot wire. The hot wire, really, you have to be gentle. It'll melt away the foam very quickly, and it's meant to be used as a cutting tool. It's meant for people that are putting insulation in houses to shoop and just cut through that stuff really quickly. So it's powerful. And we let the sand and the rocks dry, and then I've got the hot glue gun again, and I'm using that to slowly drag some hot glue across some of the spaces in the building here to create vines to get our jungle vibe. And we've included these on all of the buildings in our Lustria jungle board build, and they look great, and it's easy and inexpensive to do. You can also do this with like Sculpey clay or like green stuff, but I believe the hot glue is the most cost effective. And now I've got some painter's tape. I'm going to cover up the pool, the sea glass. Going to cover that really quickly so that I can apply the sealant on here. And we're using that American-made Freedom Paste. Now, a new thing that I've been doing with my sealant here is actually using house paint. You can go to the hardware store. They have like a return section in the back, and often you can find inexpensive house paint. And I found that the black house paint is much stronger than normal acrylic paint. There's stuff in it. Don't know exactly what it is, but it really helps to seal. You mix it with the Elmer's glue, PVA glue, and it really helps to seal these pieces really well.
Hey man, I heard you've been watching Legendary Tabletop. a great channel. I heard you like crafting. I heard you like building tabletop terrain. Now, do you want your terrain to last just a few days? Or do you want your terrain to last as long as the greatest country in the world? Do you want extra freedom on your terrain? Have you been using subpar products? Well, stop it! Stop it right now! Because here at Legendary Tabletop, we only use American-made Freedom Paste. Now add some freedom to your crafts. Order now. Only 5 payments of $9.99 make your crafts strong as freedom. Become a certified fucking legend. Legendary Tabletop. That's what's up.
Alright, our American-made Freedom Paste has dried. And we got some real solid stuff here. And so I'm moving on to painting, and I am starting with an undercoat of some mid-level brown. Not a dark brown, just a regular brown. I'm going to do 2 coats of this. Then I'm going to do a heavy, not dry brush, but a wet brush, I guess. I mean, is that the term? And so I'm not wiping the paint off the brush. And we're creating, a layer. We're putting down a base for this. So 2 layers, and I'm leaving a couple of the spots free of paint because they're going to be metallic. So we want the metallic paints to have that black undertone, and then the rest of our jungle terrain has this brown undertone. It's nice. It really ties all the jungle terrain and the buildings together. And then I'm using this off-white. This is like white, yellow, brown mixed together. And I'm going to put this on the surfaces that are facing towards the sun, where the light would be coming down. And a lot of this as well, I'm basically brushing downwards with my brush to create that effect. Now moving on to the candles, one of my favorite colors here, this nice turquoise. And I been using this kind of craft paint, and it works okay, and I ended up actually dipping into a turquoise in the miniature paints because I found the pigment on this was barely standing up to the black primer of our Freedom Paste. And just to save myself a little bit of time, normally that wouldn't matter, because this isn't a miniature, so we're not trying to really obscure details, but just to help the time. And then now I'm using this Vallejo, this kind of I believe this is copper, and doing a couple layers of paint on here. And this is miniature paint, so it's got a much stronger, denser pigment, and the black really is nice with this. And what I do with this is just same thing. I do 2 layers. One is just a basic coverage, but I'm also trying to avoid some of the cracks and crevices in order to use the black that's already there. And then I do a second layer where I kind of do a sloppy edge highlight, and that creates just enough depth for your terrain piece. And moving along, I'm gonna start hitting those vines with a smaller brush and a mid-level green, and using this more inexpensive hobby paint. This is kind of like that apple barrel grade level paint, and the same thing, we're going to do a few layers of this because it does appear to be quite strong right now, but that's because of the water in there. The acrylic paint tends to be very, very strong initially, and then it dies down as it dries. And then after a few layers of the green to separate the vines, I grab a more yellow-ish green, and I'm going to hit some of the highlights of the vines. And just one layer of this is enough. Once this dries, it creates a nice little variant on the ivy, and it's just enough to make the piece really look come together. And the green and the turquoise too are a nice balance between the warm tones of the brown and tan. And then now, because we're not going to use a wash at the end of this, we want this piece to be very bright to match the rest of the terrain. I'm using a permanent marker to hit some of the details in the cracks and crevices. Now, this will ruin your permanent marker, but just, make sure you get a inexpensive one. This one, though, I've actually been able to use on a few pieces, so I've gotten, my money's worth, so to speak. This thing was like 50 cents or something, so not too much on this one. And then I'm moving along here. I cut a bunch of these dollar store faux plants into little pieces, and there's a ton of this stuff on the other terrain, the other buildings, and this is just going along and matching the other pieces. And I'll just do a little hot glue dab in a corner where there is a little like a crevice that I can hide, and stick the little stem in here, and that's enough to keep these. You just got to move a little bit quickly before the glue dries. And also around these I'll be adding some tufts as well, and some homemade flock here, which I have. This is just sawdust that's mixed with paint and then left out to dry in different tones: dark green, light green, orange, red, dark brown, that sort of thing. And then we let those dry, mix them together, and it makes this really nice jungle turf. And it was basically absolutely free because I only used paint that I already had and sawdust from the garage from some furniture projects. And there you have it.
Alright, so another great piece here completed for our Mordheim in Lustria build, the Spawning Pool. So definitely a very cool piece. I'm very pleased with how it's turned out. It matches the rest of the table. Pretty soon we're going to be able to play a few games on this table. It'll be really nice. We just got a few more special things to do to the table, and we'll be completed with this series, and we'll move on to the next fun thing. Now, thank you guys. If you've made it this far in our video series, please hit the like and hit the subscribe. And without further ado, you all know what time it is. It's time to roll that beautiful bead footage!